Welcome back to the Exam 1 movie review for Mike 314 HIV in Society. This lecture will be on the origin of HIV. And basically, when I come at this lecture, I think the first thing I think is that Dr. Jacobs is trying to show us that HIV was actually a natural process attributed to a crossover from monkeys to humans. There's a large misconception in the HIV community that possibly the CIA created the virus, or that it was a product of contaminated polio viruses back in the 1950s. But as Dr. Jacobs pointed out in this lecture, there are very systematic ways of proving that HIV was a natural occurring event, which could possibly happen again. So, okay. Dr. Jacobs started the lecture with saying, "What have you heard? CIA people, contaminated polio virus, wrath of God." So how did we figure out where HIV came from? Well, the scientists used complicated probability math and computer programs to compare HIV and its genome, or to compare the different strains of HIV and their genome, and then come up with a computational level of relatedness, or they came up with a scoring system where they showed relatedness between the different strains of HIV. In this phylogenetic tree here, we see SIV, which is primate form of HIV, and then we see all the different types, all the different groups of HIV. So, what more? Okay, and then we'll skip. We had this one as well. This phylogenetic tree, which just basically shows you that A and B are more closely related than C. And if you have any questions on how a family tree works, be sure to ask. Be sure to get help on that. I'm not going to go too much into that, which I could, but I'm not going to. And okay, so this is HIV in the big picture. We have HIV-1, we have HIV-2, we have SIV, the monkey HIV, or the primate HIV equivalent. And so HIV-1 is the most prevalent in the world human population. In particular, HIV-1M group. M stands for main, the main group. There's HIV-1N, which is N stands for non-M group, and there's HIV-O outside of the M group. Cleverly worded. And inside HIV-1M group, we have all these different clades, 10 different clades to be exact. So it's moving right along. Oh, before we move along, I just want to point out that HIV-2 is much less prevalent in the human population. It's typically only found in West Africa, and it's typically only found in highly exposed individuals such as prostitutes or highly polygamous people, because HIV-2, it's actually was shown to have a much lower transmission rate. It's much harder to transmit. So, moving right along. It's just another phylogenetic tree. Let's get to the meat. We wanted to start talking about the clades most prevalent in the world. And I guess we'll get there. But okay, I have it here in my notes that these particular dates, the Norwegian sailor, 1961 and 1962, he is an important guy. He's the first European. He's likely the first European case of HIV transmission. He got it when he was docked in Cameroon. This is sub-Saharan Africa, and Cameroon is a country. He was docked there, and then he took it back to Norway. And about 10 years later, the sailor died, his wife died, and his child died of AIDS-like complications. They didn't know what AIDS was back then, but they did know that certain things like Kaposi sarcoma or cystic pneumonia, PCP, pneumonia, cystic, oh man, no, PCP. I need to get back to that. I need to. I'll get back to you on what that is, but that's a major opportunistic disease. So anyway, that's an important date. The Greek fisherman, 1978, is an important date. That's an early case of HIV, documented of a European with a documented HIV case. And there's also a slurry of dates down here, which Dr. Jacobs was talking about how that's the dates of blood that are kept in frozen suspension and that test positive for HIV. So they have blood from 1959 collected in the Congo, which is positive for HIV. So there is physical evidence that it dates back to the 60s and the early 50s. So this is an important slide. Here it shows the prevalence of the different clades around the world. HIV M-B is North America, South America. This is very important. So the B clade is in America. And then the excuse me, HIV-C is prominent in South Africa. This is where 50% of the HIV cases in the world are located, so this is very, very important. We have America, B, and South Africa, C. Okay, and there's other ones that maybe you should take a look at. Moving right along, another phylogenetic tree. Or no, this actually has is very important. Okay, so here the HIV-1M group, the main group with the different clades, it shows the diversity of a single virus. It's basically just the diversity of a single virus that diversified across the human population. And we can extrapolate this information through similar probability programs, as I talked about before, to trace it back to a single virus. And what they do is basically, so we know how fast the virus mutates, and if we continually relate the virus mutation, okay, and we've been tracking the mutation from 1980 to 2000, you can look at the rate of change and you can get a slope. You can get rise over run and just follow that back to about 1930, which is the suspected time of HIV crossing over into the human population. There's a margin of error from about from about 1900 to 1940, but we suspect that it's probably 1930. So